Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavata class. It's Canto 2, Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 5, The Cause of All Causes, and Text 34. Now, I've gotten a message from the speaker today, Dronacharya Prabhu. So he's going to try to log back in. He was in earlier, but he's had some technical problems on his end. So he's going to log back in. So if we could be a little patient, then we should be able to get him on pretty soon. Just when I started announcing was when I saw the message that he was going to try to get back in.
Yeah, he was saying his speaker is not working. He's going to log back in.
Yeah. So we'll see what will happen. I'm just going to go to, in the meantime, see if I can get some sound. See the Prabhupada get done again back on.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Everything's
Hare
working
Krishna,
okay now.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Drona's on. Oh, there you go. Okay.
I understand. Just wait.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's class, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 5, The Cause of All Causes, and this morning's text 34. And we're fortunate to have His Grace Dronacharya Prabhu, Temple President, ISKCON Philadelphia, to give the class. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Gurudev Sri Prabhupada.
Jai, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Gurudev. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Good morning, Harrisburg family. It's great to see you all. And Happy New Year. It's the first time seeing you
Same to you. Hare
physically
Krishna.
in the New Year. We pray that Krishna blesses your yatra, the wonderful Harrisburg temple, so that you can grow in your devotion and spread the holy names into the hearts of so many souls that are just out there waiting to hear and receive Krishna's mercy.
Jai. Hare Krishna. It's all yours.
Thank you. Sorry, I had a little technical difficulty logging in the first time.
Mhm,
I had to use a
mhm.
different computer. I'll chant Jai Radha just one time through, just to invoke the blessings.
Take your time. No rush.
It's snowing here. I don't know if it's snowing in Harrisburg.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Okay.
Absolutely everywhere. All the way up to New Jersey, it's snowing.
Yeah. So it'll
Mm,
be a slow day for many of us.
yeah. Hare Krishna.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashrotatara Shishi Mad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashrotatara Shishi Mad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Maharaj Ki
Jai.
Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki
Jai.
Prem Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki
Jai.
Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki
Jai.
Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki
Jai.
Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki
Jai.
Ganga Maya Ki
Jai.
Yamuna Maya Ki
Jai.
Bhakti Devi Ki
Jai.
Dosi Devi Ki
Jai.
Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki
Jai.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki
Jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki
Jai.
Nitai Gaur Premanande
Hari Hari Wo.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories, the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories, the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories, all glories, all glories, the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri
All
Gauranga.
glories to
Srila Prabhupada. Jai Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namane Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Ashtatmane Shri Gaura Purana Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirajet Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, may I offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishis, the supermost human beings, unto the Goddess of Learning, Mother Saraswati, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes in Srimad Bhagavatam and rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart becomes almost completely destroyed, and devotional service becomes established within one's heart as an irrevocable fact. Today's verse, second canto, chapter 5 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, text number 34. Varshapuga sahasrante Tarandam udake shayam kala karma swabhavasto jivo jivam ajivayat Varshapuga sahasrate Tarandam udake shayam kala karma swabhavasto Jivo jivam ajivayat Varshapuga sahasrate Tarandam urakeshayam Kala karma swabhavasto Jivo jivam ajivayat. Would anybody else like to chant?
Hare Krishna. Varshapuga sahasrante tadandam udakeshayam kalakarma swabhavasto jivo jivam ajivayat. Hare Krishna.
Vasapuga Sahasrante Tad Andam Udake Shayam Kala Karma Swabhavasto Jivo Jivam Ajivayat. Hare Krishna.
Varshapuga Sahasrante. Tad Andam Udakeshayam. Kala Karma Svabhavasto. Jivo Jivama Jivayat. Hare Krishna.
वर्षपूगसहस्रान्ते तदण्डम् उदकेशयम् कालकर्म स्वभावस्थो जीवो जीवमजीवयत् हरे कृष्ण
वर्षपूगसहस्रान्ते तदन्दण्डमुदकेशयम् कालकर्मस्वभावस्तो जीवो जीवं जीवयेत् हरे कृष्ण
Anyone else? Okay, we'll go to the synonyms. Varsapuga, many years. Sahasras ante, thousands of years, Tat, that, andam, the universal globe, udake, in the causal water, shayam, being drowned, kala, eternal time, karma, action, swabhavasta, according to the modes of nature, jiva, the Lord of the living beings, ajivam, non-animated, ajivayat, caused to be animated. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Thus all the universes remained, thousands of aeons, within the water, the causal ocean. And the Lord of living beings entered into each of them, caused them to be fully animated. Purport. The Lord is described herein as the Jiva because He is the leader of all Jivas, living entities. In the Vedas, He's also described as Nitya, the leader of all the Nityas. The Lord's relation with the living entities is like that of the Father with the sons. The sons and the Father are qualitatively equal, but the Father is never the Son, nor is the Son ever the Father who begets. So as described above, the Lord as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, or Hiranyagarbha, Supersoul, enters into each and every universe and causes it to be animated by begetting the living entities within the womb of the material nature as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14:3. After each annihilation of the material creation, the living entities are merged within the body of the Lord. And after the creation, they are again impregnated into the material energy. In material existence, therefore, the material energy is seemingly the mother of the living entities, and the Lord is the Father. When, however, the animation takes place, the living entities revive their own natural activity under the spell of time and energy. And thus, the varieties of living beings are manifested. The Lord, therefore, is ultimately the cause of all animation in this material world. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation once again. Thus all the universes remained for thousands of aeons within the water, the causal ocean. And the Lord of living beings entered into each of them and caused them to be fully animated. This word aeons, it's a terminology used to describe an indefinite, uncountable amount of time. So a very long, extended period of time. So Lord Brahma is continuing his conversation about the creation of the universe. and to clear up the misconception that he is the actual creator and origin of the universe. It's true, he's a secondary creator. He does have creative powers delegated and empowered to him by the Supreme Lord. But he is not the original cause of all causes, be it in the spiritual world and even not even here in the material world. A very elevated being, much more elevated than any one of us could even imagine on our own. But still, he's saying, even I have a source. The universe, we see here, it remained for thousands, or we'll say aeons, as Srila Prabhupada has translated it, of years living in the causal ocean. These universes just remained. And then only by the desire of the Supreme Lord, Karnadakshaya Vishnu, who is the creator of this causal ocean, he further expands himself into each of the individual universes, thus giving them animation or life, triggering things. He's the catalyst to set into motion. And then as he expands himself into Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, into each one of the universes, from that Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, from the navel comes the lotus, in which Lord Brahma then is created or born. And then from there, Lord Brahma begins to create the various material elements, or combine them and set it into motion. But then within each of the living entities, again, that Garbhodakshaya Vishnu then expands himself even further into the super soul, the Paramatma, into the heart of every living entity, as well as into every atom of this material existence. So no matter where we go in this material world, the presence of the Supreme Lord is there, both as his as the spirit soul, excuse me, as the super soul, but also being the catalyst for all of material creation. The Supreme Lord's presence is there. In fact, even the material energy, Krishna says, this is my energy. This is being created by me. It's one of my energies. It's an inferior energy. It doesn't have consciousness. The living entities, the living beings have consciousness. But even this material energy is still a part of me. Srila Prabhupada, when he starts off the purport, he describes right away about the jiva, and in this particular case, that's why it's always important to take things within context, because we're used to, in the conventional way, when we think of the word jiva, to think of the jivatma, the spirit soul. Jiv Jago, Gora Chandra Bole, wake up, sleeping soul. That's us, the jiva. Ishwara is the Supreme Lord. But within this context, the word jiva is referring to the leader of all the jivas. So there's one supreme jiva, or living force, and he's the master and controller of all the jivas, the living entities. And this is just like there's that verse, Nitya Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitanam, that of the many eternals, of the many nityas, there's one nitya, there's one supreme eternal. So in the same way as there's many jivas, there's one supreme jiva, and that is the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. This is important to know, because we need to understand what are, and philosophically, and have a, and be and act in such a way. Ultimately, it's not just a philosophical exercise, but we want to have an understanding and live in a reality of our true position as subordinate to the Supreme Lord. We are dependent upon the Supreme Lord. We are not equal. Yes, qualitatively we may be equal, in the sense that our DNA, our spiritual DNA, is the same as the DNA, for the most part, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada gives that example about, drops in an ocean, have the same chemistry as the entire ocean itself. It's just a sample size. So in the same way, yes, we are created, and we are parts and parcel of that Supreme Lord, but we are never quantitatively equal to Lord Krishna. So we should never get it mixed up in this way. There is one and then there is many. We are in the category of the many. As Srila Prabhupada continues in the purport, it's interesting here because there are two realities that are taking place. In one sense, we are nitya. We are eternal. And eternal means you have neither a birth or a death. There's no point when you've ever come into existence. There's never a time when you will come into existence, nor will there ever be a time when you go out of existence. Krishna explains this to Arjuna in the beginning of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So that is our eternal spiritual nature. The jiva never takes birth. But at the same time, when the jiva enters into this material creation, it appears as if it takes birth. And in one sense, it's the material body, the identity, this false ego of the jiva begins. So it has a beginning part of it, but that is not the eternal spirit soul having a beginning. This is this new experience, this identity that the living being is now undertaking. And in this new identity, this experience in this material world, that is what this section is explaining, because that has a whole process, and that is real. It's not, yes, it's part of the illusory part of this material world, but it is actually taking place. So within that, the living entity, from that perspective, Krishna or Vishnu, in the aspect of Vishnu, as Krishna interacts with this material world, he is the aspect of God or the personality of God at work or in creation and maintenance. He appears and takes the role as the Father. And the verse that Srila Prabhupada has referred to here, Bhagavad Gita 14:3, Mama yonir mahad brahma tasman garba didamyaham swabhava sarma bhutanam tato bhavati bhartaha. The total material manifestation is called Brahman, is the source of birth. And it is that Brahman which I impregnate, making possible the birth of all the living beings, O son of Bharta. So from this perspective, Krishna is the seed-giving father that impregnates the material energy, which is considered to be the mother. And this womb that Krishna impregnates of Mother Nature, then it begins to creation and activity or animation then begins. In that purport to that verse, that Srila Prabhupada 14.3 that I just read there, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of how in our conditioned state we don't recognize that Krishna is the seed-giving father, that he is the source, that he has put everything into motion. And he gives the example of a scorpion laying eggs in a pile of rice. That sometimes it is said that the scorpion is born out of the rice. But the rice is not the cause of the scorpion. Actually, the eggs were laid by the mother. Similarly, material nature is not the cause of the birth of living entities. The seed is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they only seem to come out as products of material nature. Thus, every living entity, according to his past activities, has a different body, created by material nature, so that the living entity can enjoy or suffer according to his past deeds. The Lord is the cause of all manifestations of the living entities in this material world. So this example of the scorpion laying eggs in a pile of rice is analogous to the way I should say, science presents the existence of living beings in this world. We are born from the mother, just as the scorpions appear to come out of the rice. Now, we would never think that actually the rice is the cause of a scorpion, because rice itself, it doesn't have, once you take it out of and disconnect it from the plant itself, actually doesn't have any life, any life in it. So we would never think that a scorpion, so you would never think a piece of, and thus it doesn't even have any qualities of a scorpion, right? It doesn't have that. So in the same way, material nature, or a combination of matter, how can it breed spirit? How can it produce something that is spirit? How can you take something that is without life, without consciousness? How can you take a pile of matter and then produce a living being from that? It's in the same way of expecting that a scorpion could actually be hatched out of a grain of rice. Doesn't make any sense. So obviously there's something more that's going on there. There must be something else within that pile of rice. And it's the eggs that another scorpion has laid. So life comes from life. It's not that, life comes from matter. This was the big debate that was going on back when Srila Prabhupada was manifesting his earthly pastimes. And thus he wrote and spoke about this. He has the one book, which is Conversations with, scientists about life coming from life as opposed to life coming from matter. It's not so much as big of a debate now, but the principle still exists. Then we should be convinced of it and be able to explain this to other people who are confused about this. You can't generate spirit from matter. And in no way in this material creation, without the living force, the living entity, ourselves, as well as the ultimate cause, Krishna, setting things into motion, none of this is possible. It's not simply the combination of material elements in various forms has actually given birth to life. The conventional talk of how the universe began with the Big Bang Theory, where there was a combination of energy, and that energy was existing for eons, just like it's mentioned in this verse. It existed. It was, and it was an intense force into a very small space. So when you cram as much material into a small space, it increases the density. Density is measured by mass over volume. So as you increase and press more into it, the energy becomes so so dense, powerful, that it created an explosion. And from that explosion, it sent out light years of distance all across what was considered to be the universe. And the heat, as things began to cool, started to consolidate and form planets. The planets, on and on. Eventually, the building blocks, amino acids, were formed, and then that gave, the building blocks of life, etc. And then life began. That is the theory that was put out there, called the Big Bang Theory. Now, more recently, I think science has tried to move away from this, and recognize that their realm of study doesn't include, it doesn't view God as a subject of study. In fact, they realize that it's something you can't prove or disprove because the concept of God falls outside the realm of the natural material world. And that's what scientists are tasked to investigate. What are the things that you can measure? What we can perceive with our senses. And we know from reading the scriptures that Krishna says, I'm beyond the senses. One cannot see me, through the senses. One cannot come to some mathematical calculation in which one will arrive at God. So he remains outside of that realm in which science can investigate. When you had people like Sir Isaac Newton, who studied the law of gravity, they say that he was a religious man. He believed in God, but his task was not to try to prove that God was the cause of gravity, or gravity was an aspect of the energy of God. He was trying to understand how gravity and the gravitational force and how matter moved within the atmosphere and its relationship to one another. That was his goal in trying to discover it. It wasn't trying to prove or disprove the existence of God. It was separate. The fields of study were, and the scope was very narrow and defined. Our exception is when scientists take that leap and they start to say that, God does not exist or God has not created it, that matter came from matter, or spirit came from matter, that's where we take our exception. And uh, the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, they delve into this because they explain the difference between matter and spirit. They explain the creation of the universe, and how matter is created, the different aspects of matter, the formation of matter. And it also explains how the living entity enters into matter in both the gross and subtle forms, how they are separate, but how they identify with one another, and how this is illusion. Um, Trying to understand, and what science does is trying to understand the source of the universe, the seed of creation, and taking God out of the equation, they will always remain baffled, because you're not going to come to that conclusion through any type of material equation or material measure. However, through our observation of just a study of this world, we can see that just as a scorpion does not come from a grain of rice, at the same time, matter does not and has not ever produced spirit. Each of us have a mother and a father. We would never accept somebody that came and said, I just appeared. I didn't have a mother and a father, right? We would never accept that. I just appeared. Or out of a bed, I just appeared. I appeared out of a bed, because it wouldn't make any sense, nor do we have any experience of anything of that existing. And that is is what we contest, is that spirit comes from spirit. Matter, spirit does not come from the combination of material elements. However, it appears as if sometimes that we are born from a mother, the living entity, because of the combination of the material energy along with the spirit soul. So that makes sense. So how do we understand that? The Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, they give the explanation how the living entity and the material nature, they combined and act as an identity. It's a false identity. It's an illusory identity. It's a temporary identity. It's not our eternal identity, but it does exist. So these are some of the points that I was inspired to talk about from today's verse. If anybody has any comments or questions or thoughts about it, it's a little bit technical. It's not so much into Leela or personal growth and development of us, but we should be aware of these various theories that are floating out there, and we should understand their limitations. That when you don't understand that Krishna is, if you don't begin with Krishna, you will never really arrive at understanding Krishna through a process of empiric analysis and scientific discovery. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada.
Yeah. Please accept mine. Of course, Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to the devotees on the call. Yeah, very nice class, Prabhu. You said we will always be baffled till the time we don't put God in perspective. Meaning when we are trying to understand various aspects or various situations happening around us, uh, even like normal things happening around us, or understanding the universe as a whole. Like we won't be able to understand how creation came into existence and everything till the time God is in perspective. So that is one point that I like, that that it always happens. Like, people think how this thing happened, it's like miracle. Miracle is something that I feel like, that is somewhere God's hand in that. And people are not able to uh, conceive, because they don't think there is God, or it's God's grace, like that. And other thing you talked about was towards the start, or like 5 or 10 minutes in the class, you talked about um, uh, the the initial sentences in for the purport, and you express that we should take the those sentences in the whole context. So many times, it happens in our lives as well, that we take certain situations or some things in out of context, and we relate it to something else. Similarly, like, it creates problems. The same way, when Prabhupada's like purports or his teachings are taken out of context, we will always learn something that he didn't want to teach us.
Hmm.
He wanted to teach us something where, like, but we need to keep all the context together, and then, like, try to understand all the things involved. So yeah, those are my takeaways. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarvanga Sundar Damodar Prabhu. Very nicely explained.
Thank you, Dronacharya, for such a class, a very nice class, because like you mentioned at the end, it's not leelas, it's not pastimes, it's not, whatever, it's technical. But I was really appreciating how important it is, because you mentioned this book, Life Comes After Life, I believe, by
Life comes
Prabhupada.
from
I was
life.
really appreciating how important it is for us to read Prabhupada's books, to get these facts, and how important it is to really read, because Prabhupada wrote those books very, very simple for common laymen, for in everyday language. So I was thinking how important it is for us to read and get this knowledge. And I also want to agree with Damodar, like we hear, how we take it out of context. Like you repeatedly said it like 2, 3 times in your class, that some things get taken out of context, and we should just follow as it is. Goes back to the as it is aspect of Srila Prabhupada's books. But I wanted to ask a question, Drona, if you could, if I heard you correct, because I may not have heard you correctly. Towards the end, when you said that when the material energy and the spiritual energy comes together, I think you said it's false energy. Is that right, Prabhu?
A false ego. No, it's not the false. It's not false
False
energy.
ego.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
false ego.
at least that's what I meant to say. Maybe I misspoke.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
it it
okay.
it, it creates an illusion of an experience that we're undergoing here in this material world, where the
Mm.
living entity then begins to identify itself in uh, not according to its eternal constitutional nature, but by its the material body, both gross and subtle, that it has taken on.
Thank you for clarifying that, Prabhu. So when the material and the spiritual comes together, then that creates a false ego. What's coming to my mind is how can we flip it for our own Krishna consciousness?
That's the process of Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Is to be
Yes,
able to is to dissolve the false ego, our false sense of self, And remember, because it exists. That's the thing. It exists. It's not that it doesn't exist. It exists. Our true ego, our true eternal being exists. It's just covered over. Just like a drop of water that falls from the sky, it hits the ground and becomes dirty. That drop of water still has all its contents and qualities there. It just has to go through a purificatory process of stripping out all of the contaminants, and then the water returns to its natural state of being. So through the process of Krishna consciousness, bhakti yoga, because bhakti is that which is most natural to the soul. So the process of bhakti, as opposed to the process of jnana or karma, which can also be used, but ultimately that'll bring us to the point of bhakti. We will re-engage in our eternal activities that we are meant to. Sadhana bhakti versus raganuga bhakti, where the process of purifying our existence is the process of sadhana bhakti. So it's bhakti in practice, where we're purifying our existence, where we're trying to dissolve that false ego. But bhakti in its natural, eternal stage is ragatmika bhakti, or it's unalloyed, unmotivated, uncontaminated devotion or activity to the Lord. So that's our that's how we reverse the process.
That's really nicely, beautifully put, Prabhu. I was reading a quote this morning in our spiritual master Gurudev's Global Connect WhatsApp group, and there's this beautiful quote where it's from Radhanath Swami, where he says, "Bhakti means the signs of being defeated. Krishna wants to be defeated by the love of his devotee, and the devotee wants to be defeated by Krishna's love." That was so beautifully put together that, the way Maharaj phrases that whole sentence was so powerful. But yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dronacharya.
Hare Krishna.
Any other questions from devotees? Any thoughts? There's a question here, a comment here by Nitya Gopal saying that you explained the technical topic in a very simple way. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, I have to agree with that because you made it so story form. That was really, really helpful, Dronacharya. That, because go ahead, please.
I just wanted to mention real quickly that there are devotees in our movement who are very educated in this topics and fields. They're scientists, they're PhDs who have gone into explaining this in much more detail, very much more detail. They've written publications and books, who attend conferences as part of their preaching. And if anybody has an inclination toward that, there's something called the Bhaktivedanta Institute. It's in Gainesville, Florida. Although they're gathered throughout the world, but that's kind of the center of it. So you could check that out, the Bhaktivedanta Institute, and see some of the works that they're doing. A lot of times it's not so much advertised. I learned about it about 2 years ago, just the amount of work that they're doing. I met one devotee from one of the conferences. I was like, wow, he's really smart. He really knew a lot. He was like an astrophysicist. And so there are devotees that have that inclination, but now they're utilizing those skills in the service of giving explanations about creation and how the material world functions, and hopefully opening up people's hearts to an alternative view of the way that they can see creation, according to the words and direction of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if anybody ever has any there's a pathway for you in devotional service if you feel that is your calling and natural proclivity. You could check out the Bhaktivedanta Institute.
Dronacharya actually it's interesting because I also found out about them like 2-3 years ago. I didn't even know they existed. But they've been around for quite some time, really doing a lot of research.
Yeah.
A lot of research. So yeah, and it gets very scientific, very in-depth, very nitty-gritty, very deep, very, very deep. Yeah. And I think, like you mentioned, that those who, that's an excellent way to use for preaching in the academic research field in the material world, because it can definitely touch the minds of those who are interested in stuff like that, and that can probably change their mind towards Krishna consciousness just from this deep, academic research that is definitely in the academic science in the field of the material world. Yeah, thank you. Very nice point. Any other questions from devotees? Any thoughts, any reflections? As Dronacharya said, it's a technical topic, but at the same time has been put very simply, very, very simple way. And it shows the beauty of Krishna's creation, beautiful beauty of Krishna's creation. Yes, Damodar, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I'm like, coming back again. There are so many points I felt like discussing today. I feel like, we can keep on discussing this like whole day today. Like, as a, regarding this particular thing that, this is a technical topic. So I keep on hearing this one the devotee, and I keep on like talking about this, like because he mentioned this in his Bhagavatam classes, that you know this first couple of cantos or 2 3 cantos, they are all about like um talking about how the creation came into existence. And he gives the example that you have some favorite dish, suppose it's pizza, like from some time, you know I've been craving about pizza. Now, when I am craving about pizza, I've got so much interest in that pizza that now I am thinking like, I need to find out how to make one. And, so basically that's the thing. Like, if we are staying, and if we are like, living, and if we want to go back to the spiritual world, we need to understand the spiritual world, as well as we need to understand how the creation came into being. So we are like, we will have that interest when the person develops interest in like that field. So we'll surely have that interest to understand how it came into existence. And regarding the Bhakti Vedanta Institute, I remember one thing. uh, they are trying to, like because it is said that material universe is created out of 5 elements. So they are trying to put all these things in perspective, how all these things can like because like how metals and different liquids can be put into all these categories of just 5 elements and all those things. So yeah, they are doing an amazing job. I remember that one. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Mm.
Prabhu. Yeah, categories, when we talk about categories, you have to always remember that you can always break categories into bigger categories. There's subcategories, there's subsets of categories, there's generalizations of categories. In one sense, you could say everything is one category, and that's Krishna's energy. And then you can break Krishna's energy into different forms of that energy, and that could be category. Then you could break each of those categories into further categories. So that requires some, research and expertise, and then through comparison of what material scientists have categorized things, and then spiritual science can, see the equivalence of such. And this is to help people understand that and help people build faith in the Bhagavatam.
Very good point. Yes. Thank you, Drona. Thank you. And thank you, Damodar, for the comments too. That was very helpful. about the pizza pastime. Thank you about that. Any other questions from devotees? Any
Hare
thoughts?
Krishna, please step on the basis. It's all glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, this we're in the second canto now. But when it comes to the third canto, there's even more description there. That's where the Philadelphia temple is at now. It's also about creation. And it's very interesting how it's described there. And to relate it to material science as we know it now gives the impression that actually it's the material science that doesn't know much. Because this is beyond, creation is well beyond what material science actually knows about. We're talking about the scriptures that describe the creation versus science trying to find out about creation and try to say some things about it. And in the process of doing it, making some hypotheses because some things are just over their heads and they know that. They try to come up with some intelligent guesses based on what they can see now. But we have limited, everything that we have is limited. Our senses are limited. The instruments they use are also limited. And therefore, it just gets to the point where you have to go by what the the Shastra is talking about. And that's, yes, Bhaktivedanta Institute is there. Just so much research is going on there, and they have seminars. I know about that. I was actually pulled into it, but I was so convinced about Srila Prabhupada's, description that I had personally I had a little bit of turn off to try to relate chemistry that I knew even to that because this scripture was more convincing to me than what chemistry said. I know how I wrote the PhD thesis, that I don't believe that now. So it was like I had to quietly back out of that of it, and also knowing what the scientists, I'm not talking about devotees who are taking this scriptures of science, but the scientists themselves, those who are dealing with material science, their attitude to it. There's a lot of false ego involved, a lot of false ego. They're trying to come up with this reason and that reason and this reason and that reason. And so I can make it even more ridiculous, but I just keep quiet about it. So the thing is, all right, whatever they can, I just call them the third creators because Mahavishnu did first creation, the universes. Dronacharya, Vishnu, and Brahma together, Vishnu coached Brahma. The second creation came, which was the varieties and the different universes. Each universe is varieties. And then the energies that's here, the third creator, that's us, taking some combinations and then coming up with new products, and we get all fascinated about it, and the possibilities are seemingly endless. But still, how the universes came to be and how the planets came to be from the universes, nobody really understands it properly. So, I mean, if there is a first level, second level, and we are sitting at a third level, how much can we know about second and first level anyway? So, and that's the point. That's the point where I just kind of I'm fascinated by what Srila Prabhupada said in Srimad Bhagavatam also talks about. And personally, I just leave it at that. Sometimes you can have some connections, which are very, very, very nice. One of them, I could just say the five elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Some of the realizations that came to me were actually it is a part of even the physical body. When you think about it, earth, the flesh, the physical body is earth. The same elements are in there that are in there. And then water, which is easy to understand. We drink water, so the body definitely has water. And we breathe the air, so the body has air. So that's there. And then fire, well, we can't see fire in this body, but the element, the cause of fire is what? Heat. And light also heat. Well, the body is at 37 degrees Celsius. There's definitely heat in that body.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's even higher than the heat that's outside, normally, even in the summer. Still, our bodies are warmer. And then ether, space. Yeah, space means volume. Volume. And we all occupy a certain volume. All of us. Our sizes. So then the five elements can be explained that way. So from that, And it's from Shastra, this earth, water, fire, air, and ether came to, or space came to be. So that kind of appreciation, yeah, yeah, making it that simplistic, but also very true about, creation, from the five elements. But chemistry talks about 113 or so. That's all combinations. There's some appreciation there, but I think the Shastra actually puts things in greater perspective than scientists can ever dream of. I just wanted to add that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's
Yeah,
mercy.
you're certainly more qualified to speak about this topic than any of us here, based on your academic, uh, you know, um, studies and your PhD in chemistry, and you've gone through it. You've heard probably all the theories, and you've had to talk about them and defend them and everything as you went through.
The thing is the mindset, though, that's such a turnoff to me.
Yeah.
Their mindset is a big turnoff to me. That's why, I'm pulling the back to me. I can't see myself talking to these scientists again. But anyway, those who are doing it, more power to them. That's good. It's a very good service. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Mm.
so much. Yes. Yeah, I guess once you come into Krishna consciousness and, coming from an academic background over a period of time, by the power of the holy name, we just get so turned off, because we know there's a much higher truth and much higher philosophy given to us by Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhupada. Thank
I'll
you.
just say one more thing. But having said
Yeah.
this, though, I'm very, very appreciative of what the devotees who are scientists are doing for the rest of the world, talking to these other scientists in the universities, because the more they convince them, taking what they know and relating it to Krishna consciousness, these guys, individually scientists, they are also shaping the minds of the young people. They really are. So when more things are said to them, bringing Krishna consciousness into their scientific perspective, and they believe it, they will actually teach that also. Then the people will just get more educated, about what things really are. At least begin to pull into the 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 spiritual aspect, the spiritual scientific aspect of it, rather than the material scientific only. So yeah, those devotees who are doing that kind of work from Sariputta and all that, they just done tremendous, tremendous work. Personally, I've just had so many questions
Yeah.
that I kind of pulled away from it because I'm just loving what I know and now and learning that's the world that was closed to me. And it was closed. And now I see Prabhupada is open, so I'm all for it. Hare Krishna.
Mm.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very
Mm.
nice discussion. Nice realizations and appreciation of what we were given by Sri Prabhupada is the highest and the most powerful than the material world can offer us. So thank you for sharing that. Any other questions from devotees? Any other thoughts, reflections? And if there isn't, thank you, Dronacharya, for such a wonderful class and making it very
Yeah.
simple. I think that's the key point, making it very simple, layman language, at least for me, And so thank you for making that so easy for us to understand the creation that the Lord has done. And thank you to all the devotees for joining us. In the vicinity that we are all at, it's snowing. So please take care, stay warm, stay inside, and keep on having a Krishna conscious day. Hare Krishna. Vanchaka pribhyascha, kripa sandabhevacha, patitanam pavanebhyo, vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare
Jaya
Krishna.
Mataji said very nice points. Good, wonderful.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare
Hari Hari Bol.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.